Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to a new episode of the Serial Critic podcast. My name is Iman, your host, and the Guilty Serial Critic. And for this episode, we will continue with our ranking of my 10 favorite crime series currently on the platforms. So, if you're ready, let's get right into it. Number 3 is a series I literally just finished the same day I'm recording this. It's called Presumed Innocent, with none other than Jake Gyllenhaal. The series is based on a novel by Scott Turow released in 1987, and there's also a movie adaptation from 1990 with Harrison Ford that honestly I didn't watch. And the series tells the story of a chief prosecutor, Rusty Savage, who is accused of murdering a female prosecutor colleague who he was having an affair with. And God, this is a delight to watch. The thing is, I couldn't really binge it because it was released on the platform on a weekly basis, but with the amount of tension every time, I couldn't wait till the next episode. First of all, the cast is perfect. Jake Gyllenhaal plays this prosecutor who is accused of murder, struggling between his infatuation with this colleague/mistress, and at the same time, he wants to be with his wife and kids. I want it all, basically. He plays so well the role of this successful, entitled, but lost guy that you almost want to shout at him through the TV, come on, get your shit together. There's also Peter Sarsgaard, who, by the way, is married to Jake's sister Maggie Gyllenhaal in real life. He plays this other prosecutor who's in charge of the case, and this guy is the most obnoxious character in the show. Because basically he was living in Rusty's shadow, he was jealous of him, and when he gets the opportunity to basically screw him during this trial, he puts everything into it, even if he has to ignore other leads, for example, in the investigation. The actress playing the wife is also portraying perfectly this wife who does not really know if her husband is a killer or not, who wants to say, but at the same time can't handle the cheating and the lies. Every single one of the characters has so many layers psychologically. They're all struggling between how they feel and how they have to do or supposed to act, basically. And this is what's great in this show. Characters are so rich and their writing is successful in making us audience know each one of them so intimately. And you're never really sure what to think about Rusty. Is he guilty or not? Did he just snap? Is it all an act? Is he really innocent? Is it guilt he's showing or shame or both? As audience, we're never sure. Visually, the show is beautiful. It's set in Chicago, so there is a beautiful emphasis on the high-rise buildings in almost every episode. The color palette is also dark and cold. Sometimes it got a little bit too dark for me though, but it was fine. Bottom line, I definitely recommend to watch Presumed Innocent. You will be lucky to be able to binge it now since it's all on the platform. It's easier with all the cliffhangers and the tension in the episodes. On to number 2 of our ranking, and it is True Detective Night Country. And I'm so excited to talk about it. It was released much earlier this year, but I just got to watching it a couple of weeks ago. Well, I think we're all familiar with the concept of True Detective, which is a TV series that's been on since 2014 with only 3 seasons. With a new story, characters, and setup every single season. You basically feel like you're watching a limited series every time. On every season, there is a 5 stars cast, a new mystery, and every time there is a different messed up way to end. And I always said that for me, season 1 with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson was my favorite one. Well, maybe today I can say that True Detective Night Country is my favorite True Detective season, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let's talk about the cast. Jodie Foster, ladies and gents, is just being as brilliant as a Jodie Foster would be, playing this police chief Danvers, damaged with a tragic background, who is throwing herself into work without really caring about how people around her would be impacted. And nothing to add here. Around her, there's a group of extremely talented cast, honestly. Some I knew, some I didn't. The ones I didn't know, for example, Callie Rice, I think her name is, she was playing a trooper Navarro, who is basically the Chief Danvers' previous partner. And there is Fiona Shaw, which is basically for us, Aunt Petunia. She will always be Aunt Petunia for us Potterheads. She was playing this weird character, Rose, who's a friend that claims basically to see dead people. So the series is set in a small town in Alaska during the winter, where the sun doesn't rise for months, especially on the December, January months. And in this small town, Danvers and Navarro are investigating the death of 6 scientists who were found frozen outside, which turns out to be linked to another murder they were investigating a few years back. So, like all previous True Detective seasons, this one also sort of plays with supernatural elements. But my favorite thing actually in this season is how visually beautiful it is. Imagine you're in Alaska in the winter. The show was shot, by the way, in Iceland. So it's an endless night with no sun, and this adds to the whole cold, gory atmosphere of the show. The story also will rattle you a bit, as not only it's a murder mystery, but it's also borders, as I said, on horror, supernatural kind of elements. All of this is set in a dark, icy winter kind of night in this small town in Alaska. The show also tackles issues like environment, sexism, and racism, but not in your face kind of thing, but it was very subtle. The main characters are beautifully developed. We see that both of them are damaged for different reasons. Both come with their baggage, which makes them act the way they do. But I would have loved to know a little bit more about other key characters in the series around them, which were a little bit shallow for me in terms of development, maybe to make them a little bit mysterious, but it was a bit too much for me. Overall, I definitely recommend this if you like the True Detective franchise. It's not for the faint of heart, as it gets a bit gory in some episodes, but it's worth the watch, honestly, just for the beauty of it. It's on HBO, as I said, and you will see it as well on OSN Plus in the region. Don't worry, we're getting there. But before I reveal my favorite crime series currently on the platforms, I wanted to give some honorable mentions to some good shows that didn't make the ranking, but I would still recommend. The first one is Dahmer on Netflix. I'm sure you all know about it. No need to spend too much time on it, but it's basically the true story of Jeffrey Dahmer. Efficient acting, writing, and directing. Love the color palette, but I found it a little bit unnecessarily gory in some episodes, but still worth the watch. The second one is Baby Reindeer on Netflix again. I think we all know this one. It's very recent. A lot of people were talking about it. It was an amazing watch. Not crime per se, but it's the story of stalking, mental health, and abuse. Very well written and played. What was for me really disturbing is beyond the series itself is the fact that the writer and main actor is the actual person who went through everything in the show. So how he chooses to relive all these traumas is honestly beyond me. And the last one is Mindhunter on Netflix as well. This is a classic I think a lot of us know and love. You should watch it if you haven't done it yet. And I'm still not over its cancellation after 2 seasons. Damn you, David Lynch. But it's one of the best crime series out there. Tells the story about how the behavioral unit started in the FBI, or what we commonly call profiling. There is an investigation, but my favorite part, obviously, is the interviews with prominent serial killers. Brilliant acting, writing, directing, nothing else to say rather than damn you, David Lynch and Netflix both. We finally arrived to my favorite crime, let's say, slash mystery TV series currently on the platforms. It's on Netflix, released just a few months ago, and I just watched it a few weeks ago. I can't believe I waited that long, honestly. And this show is called Ripley. For you film buffs, I'm sure you know about the movie released in 1997, The Talented Mr. Ripley, with Matt Damon, Jude Law, and Gwyneth Paltrow. Well, this is the TV adaptation of the film, which was adapted from a novel. Oh my God, where do I start? To give you the background first, Ripley is the story of Tom Ripley, a con man who is sent by a wealthy man to Italy to convince his son to come back home to New York. But when Tom goes and sees the lifestyle that this son lives, he basically decides that he will hang around for a little bit. But I'm not going to say more about it because you have to watch it. First of all, if you have a problem watching black and white content, then never mind, you won't like it. Because this series is 100% shot in black and white. If you're okay with that, now we can talk. So the whole series is fully written and every episode is directed by the same person. This person's name is Steven Zayan. Who's this guy, you might ask? Well, he created, to start with, The Night Of, another brilliant TV show. He wrote The Irishman. He wrote The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, American Gangster. Oh, and he wrote and won an Oscar for the screenplay of The Schindler's List. Then you have the cast. Andrew Scott plays brilliantly Tom Ripley. For me, Andrew Scott, and I think a lot of people agree with me, he's one of the most underrated actors out there. If you watched Fleabag or Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock, where he was playing Sherlock's nemesis Moriarty, you would agree with me. But this is another level, honestly. He's so charismatic, doesn't have to overact to show emotion. His acting was so subtle, especially in scenes where there's no dialogue, just pure acting. He was portraying this technically evil psychopath in such a way that you root for him and you don't want him to get caught. Along with Andrew Scott, there is Johnny Flynn playing Dickie Greenleaf, the wealthy son living La Dolce Vita in Italy, who played the role with such grace. And then you have Dakota Fanning playing Marge, Dickie's Greenleaf's girlfriend, who's doing the job, honestly. All three were portraying this weird trio with perfect chemistry. And because 90% of the show is set in Italy, there are many Italian actors. One of them, and my favorite, was Maurizio Lombardi, the guy playing the detective with such charisma. He just needed to be in the frame for us audience to freak out. In addition to the story and the cast, we need to talk about cinematography because a series shot 100% in black and white in 2024 is a bold move, especially because a lot of us who watched the film saw the vibrant Italian color palette used. The series pulls in a completely opposite direction in terms of cinematography. To start with, Ripley is pure cold noir filmmaking. It felt like I was watching a dark film from the 60s. The shadow work, the light work, even in night scenes, it all fit with the main character's dark psyche. And even in black and white, you could still see the beauty of the Italian landscapes. I don't know how to explain it, but you didn't need color to get this sometimes overwhelming feeling in a boat in the middle of the sea, for example. Everything in the series really made me feel like I was watching a classic Hitchcock movie, honestly. In addition to the color work, or lack of it in this case, there's a lot of work done on architecture elements, doors, stairs, buildings. Another thing that I really loved as well in Ripley is that the pace was perfect. Because while the few first episodes set up the story, the characters, their struggles, etc., the last 3-4 episodes are extremely fast, intense, keep you on the edge of your seat because so much is happening. But at the same time, everything is done for a reason. There is no frame shot that does not contribute to either the storyline or the character's development. There are also some amazing directing ideas. For example, in the way they read letters was pretty creative. There's also a big emphasis on art, religious iconography. At some point, there is a parallel done with an old Italian story from the 16th century, etc., which I really loved as well. Anyway, I truly recommend you watch Ripley. I have sort of checked out, honestly, from Netflix a bit, but this might be, for me, the greatest show I watched on Netflix. It had visual excellence, storytelling, impeccable style, and a morbid sense of humor, too. I hope that you enjoyed my ranking for all crime nerds out there. Let me know which ones you watched and if you agree with me or not on Instagram. For me, I will speak to you in a couple of weeks with a new episode of The Serial Critic. See you then.